Alright, so recently during a live stream, Dana White revealed the entire card for UFC 314, and it is insanely stacked. Okay, for the featherweight belt, we have Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes, and for the co-main event, we have Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. Anyway, let me get straight into it with Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. I think this is a really good fight, although I think this is one of those fights that's not going to have a lot of hype until the fight actually happens, because there's not much of a storyline going into this one. Both these guys are very respectful, and it's not like they're going to just start throwing around slurs at each other, just start beefing out of nowhere. Like, it's very unlikely that's going to happen. I think there's not going to be much hype, but I think this fight is very interesting because both these guys are very entertaining. Both these guys are fan favorites, and on top of that, this is a very winnable matchup for both guys. This is not really a one-sided fight. You know, with Volkanovski, if he had fought Ilya, I feel like most people would have expected Ilya to just KO him, and that wasn't really a winnable fight for Volkanovski, and nobody really wanted to see that either, so it didn't really make much sense. And Volkanovski had just come off that brutal KO loss that Ilia Topuria AI generated, and I think it's kind of a similar story for Diego Lopes. I mean, even though Ilia Topuria and Diego Lopes would probably have been a big fight, and I was really excited to see that, I think Ilia Topuria probably would have won that one. I don't know if a lot of people would have been picking Diego Lopes. So it's really cool to see a winnable fight for both people here. I think Volkanovski's biggest problem was the power of Ilia Topuria. So now you've kind of got rid of that. Even though Diego Lopes is kind of just like a worse Ilia Topuria everywhere, Diego Lopes still has a lot of power, but he doesn't really have that crazy KO power that's going to knock out Volkanovski in one punch. His chin seems to have recovered. I mean, he's taken a year off. It should have recovered, along with the fact that Diego Lopes tends to really slow down after round one. This seems like a really winnable fight for Volkanovski, and a lot of people are picking him to win this. So I think that is a great fight and a great main event. And on top of that, when this fight was getting rumored a while back, I was really hoping that they just would make this for some sort of belt, because I didn't think this was like a crazy entertaining stylistic matchup or anything. This didn't have any beef behind it, so I'm glad this is for a belt, because if this was just like random, they just made Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes and then Volk just gets chinned, like that would have been terrible. So I'm glad they're doing this for a belt. Now, as for the co-main event, Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett, I'm not gonna lie, I don't care about this fight at all. I genuinely don't understand this matchup. Okay, I get it that people wanted Paddy Pimblett to fight someone big, and you know, the UFC want to make him a star. Like, ranking wise, it makes sense and everything, but like, I just don't care. This is like not an interesting matchup at all. Like, stylistically, this really isn't gonna be entertaining unless like Michael Chandler genuinely just like destroys Paddy Pimblett, just outskills him everywhere. Like, this fight, it really is not that crazy. Paddy Pimblett is most likely, like, if he's able to, he's just gonna take down Michael Chandler and lay on him. Like, he's not gonna, you know, just put some crazy Habib level ground and pound and just, you know, kill him in one round. Like, that's not really gonna happen. And it's not that crazy of a fight because Paddy Pimblett's striking isn't like anything, you know, wild either. He's not going to go out there and have an absolute war with Michael Chandler. He's going to get KO'd if he does that. So he's probably going to try and take down Michael Chandler and lay on him until he can get submission. Like, again, there's not going to be anything crazy, nothing fun, nothing absolutely wild like Oliveira versus Chandler 2. You know, that was a great fight. But this is not going to be the same at all. I don't really understand why they made this. They're not going to really do anything crazy. They're probably going to kill Michael Chandler's hype. I think Paddy Pimblett's hype is not really, you know, kind of there right now. He's not known as this entertaining fighter that everyone needs to see right now. You know, he's just kind of known as a guy who's a prospect. He's coming up there. He's actually pretty good. He has good jiu-jitsu. That's really the extent of Paddy Pimblett's, like, aura right now. But with Michael Chandler, he's having all these entertaining fights. Even though he's losing all of them, he's having entertaining fights. He's not going to have that with Paddy Pimblett. I don't think anyone's going to really care about this fight, like, while it's happening. It might be entertaining because everyone knows Michael Chandler is the entertaining guy, but that's really it. Now, although I don't like the co-main event, I think the rest of the card is actually really good. You have bangers like Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull coming from Bellator. Okay, I've never really seen this guy fight, but I know this is going to be a banger. Okay, Yair Rodriguez is in this, and this is another fight I think was really good because Yair was kind of like stuck at featherweight. He didn't really have anyone to fight. There's no one really like coming up that's going to fight him, and he obviously can't challenge for the belt or anything. There was really no matchup for him at featherweight, so I'm glad that Patricio Pitbull came along and now he's fighting him, because this actually does make sense. And finally, if Yair Rodriguez gets some like crazy finish against Pitbull, just like KOs him, sleeps him in the first round, or Pitbull gets some crazy finish, I think they could like call out the champ as well and set some sort of storyline there at featherweight, which I think will be really interesting, other than Ilia Topuria just KOing everyone's fan favorites. Anyway, going on to the next fight, Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. this is actually a great fight. Okay, we have CP versus Jeff Neal. This is an absolute banger fight. Genuinely, Carlos Prates is probably one of the most like exciting prospects. I remember when Lucas Tracy was shouting this guy out when he, made his debut coming off the Contender Series, and now he's like here. It's kind of crazy to see. The guy is such a talented striker and is so entertaining, so powerful. Pause. Okay, I didn't mean to glaze Carlos Prates, but the guy genuinely is that good, and he's a very exciting prospect. I think he'll probably beat Jeff Neal, and I think Jeff Neal is really a good test for prospects, even though it was kind of boring against Ian Gary. That fight with Shavkat was a banger, and this fight is kind of like it's a gamble, bro. We might see Jeff Neal either will come out there and he'll look like an absolute beast. He goes out there like he did against RDA and Shavkat and just has an absolute war, or just, KOs RDA in the first minute of the fight. We might see that, or we might see Jeff Neal just turn into an absolute clinch merchant like against Ian Gary and just have the most forgettable fight ever. I mean, that Ian Gary fight might have been one of the worst fights I've ever watched, and I don't even think it was that bad of a fight, but I genuinely don't remember one thing that happened in that fight. That was so bad. But bro, I don't think Jeff Neal can clinch max his way to a win here. Okay, I think Carlos Prates is probably too powerful and just too strong, and also I think he has decent jiu-jitsu, and I think he'll be able to handle the clinch fairly well. I mean, that was Neil Magny's game plan, and he got absolutely slept. Okay, he took the dive. Now after this you have Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. Okay, Dominic Reyes going on an absolute GOAT run right now. Okay, KO'd legends like what's his name, Dustin Jacoby. That was an absolute banger. Okay, that was tough opponent there. That's a great opponent. And then you have Anthony Smith, where he literally just gave up midway through. So Dominic Reyes really on the run right now. I honestly think he might have to go up to heavyweight and beat John Jones again, because honestly Dominic Reyes and Tom Aspinall is just not even close there. The skill level is obviously on the side of Dominic Reyes. Okay, anyway, Nikita Krylov finally back for the Gulag or whatever he was. I'm happy to see him back. I think he probably will win this fight with like the wrestling or something. Nikita Krylov, he's decent, but Dominic Reyes, as good as he's looked in these past couple fights, like the guys that he's fighting are like not that good at all. So I can't really pick him to beat Nikita Krylov. But again, that's also a decent fight. Then you have Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. I think this is a very underrated fight. Okay, I think people might sleep on this because Dan Ige is a very tough. This guy's a gatekeeper. Okay, he's very good as well. He has a lot of power. And Sean Woodson, he's tall. He kind of has that style where he looks like he's always going to get chinned. But Sean Woodson is a very good boxer and he's a very skilled prospect. I would be very excited to see him against Dan Ige. And then you have Yan Xiaonan versus Verna Jandaroba. Okay, Verna Jandaroba, literally the alien from Toy Story. That's like, if that's not exciting, I don't know what is. And Yan Xiaonan, she's actually pretty decent, but who cares about this fight? And you have Jim Miller versus Chase Hooper. I don't understand why they made this fight. It genuinely makes no sense why they're just giving Chase Hooper like all the old guys. They just gave him Clay Guida, bro. Like, why is he getting Jim Miller? I don't know. Jim Miller, I think, is a decent test, but I don't really care about this fight that much. But I think Chase Hooper is a very good prospect. He'll probably, dominate Jim Miller. Although Jim Miller has looked pretty good recently, so maybe Chase Hooper won't get like an easy win. And then you have Darren Elkins versus Julian Erosa. Look, man, bro, this is a crafty vet matchup, man, bro. Julian Erosa, man, this guy has great jiu-jitsu. And Darren Elkins, man, this guy's a tricky customer, man. Look, bro, I think this is a very good fight as well. I think people are going to sleep on this fight, and it's going to be like fight of the night, because Darren Elkins, he just goes at it. Same with Julian Erosa. He actually has pretty good jiu-jitsu. And then you have Cedricus Dumas versus Michal Olenjetsky. Okay, I don't know if I said that right, but yeah, that's a decent fight as well. I think people will sleep on that one. Because Michal Olenjetsky, this guy just goes absolutely. This guy's a marauder, man. This guy's like middleweight Benoit Saint Denis if he just wasn't good. And then you have Sumadarji versus Mitch Raposo. This might be the battle for who is the worst flyweight in the roster. Okay, Mitch Raposo is genuinely like terrible. And then that's really it for the card. I think this is a pretty good card. Okay, I am kind of surprised they didn't put Pantoja versus Kai Kara France on here, because that was rumored to be on there originally. Like, that was one of the first matches, but I don't really know what's going on with that, because they're saying that it's going to be 316 now and it's like almost official, but the other one was almost official as well. And then Pantoja's saying he wants to go fight Merab, so I really don't know what's going on there. But yeah, that's the entire card for UFC 314. But yeah, let me know what you think about the card, and while you're down there, I'd appreciate if you could like, subscribe. If you really enjoyed the video, consider becoming a member. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. Alright. Finna take that lounge truck to Japan. Get your bands up. Yes, you can.